Welcome to the Unnecessary Statness podcast, brought to you by the team from Useless AFL Stats Facebook page, bringing you the AFL's weird, bizarre, and totally irrelevant stats you never asked for and never knew you needed, with Liam Crowy Crowhurst, Bill the Bulldog Skelton, and Aaron Della Delaport.
G'day guys.
Hey mate, how you doing?
Very good.
Yeah, I'm doing well up here in Brisbane. No lockdown yet, so enjoying my freedoms while I can.
Yeah, well, I'm over in Perth, so I'm out and about. But poor Bill, you're a bit stuck over there in Victoria, mate.
Yep, I still think every single game should be played in Victoria, though. So I'm unwavering in my belief for that.
We've already seen, I think it was today, the Crows and Port were on a plane, then they weren't on a plane. Now they're back on a plane, so they're both playing in Victoria. So I think the AFL's not scared to keep the games going. But we might do a quick look back at the previous round. Plenty of useless stats for us to digest over the last round of AFL football. And I might kick off with you, Liam.
A big talking point that came through on the messages and comments underneath the page is that there were 4 games on a Sunday. This is an equal record for most games on a Sunday. And it's the first time it's happened since 2014 round 11, which is really quite amazing that, you know, we've waited 7 years for 4 games on a Sunday. And previous to that, it happened 6 times in 2001 and 9 times in 2000. So going back towards this pre-2001 era, it's actually pretty common to have four games on a Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they had so many games back then on a Sunday, but I generally like having the 3 on a Sunday. Sunday is normally a good viewing day for me, and you can normally get into the first one, and then there's sometimes a little bit of overlap, but you can normally watch them all back to back to back.
Yeah, exactly. And interestingly, doing a bit of digging around, I also noticed that there have been 7 occurrences of 6 games on a Monday. Most recently, 1975 round 11. 6 games played on a Monday. Truly amazing.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they used to do that. Anyway, the big thing that I noticed, and I've never seen our inbox light up like it did after the Carlton-Collingwood game, was Sam Walsh's heat map, which I've not just our page which shared it. I've seen Daisy Thomas talking about it, Mitch Robinson tweet about it. I've seen it all over heaps of AFL Facebook pages, but the big doodle of Sam Walsh's heat map was everywhere straight after that game. And quite amazing that he could have 39 disposals and create that sort of a heat map. I did some calculations on it based on sort of the base right up to the tip, going straight across the MCG, and it was about a 70-metre penis recreation and about a 30 metres across. So I think that's one of the best penis drawings I've seen anywhere.
Do we reckon that the dimensions and do we reckon it's very symmetrical, would you say?
If you wanted to draw one, I think pretty much what you draw.
You couldn't hope for anything better. It's truly the pinnacle of artwork.
I noticed a few people commenting on the blue spots, which of course were his disposals. I did a bit of a Google to see if there was any conditions that may cause those blue spots in real life. A lot of conditions where it goes purple, but none where blue spots appear. So safe to say that that's not an issue he'll have to worry about with that recreation.
I'm glad we know that.
What did you pick up out of the weekend there, Bill?
You did mention that there was a player that took a while to score their first behind.
Yes. Callum Wilkie it was, yes. And so we went through the annals of history looking for players and how long they took to kick their first goal. The record belongs to Rod Carter, who kicked a goal after playing 214 games for both Fitzroy and Sydney through the 70s, 80s. He's the only player to have gone over 200. Yeah, that goal was very famous because Rod Carter used to be a stay-at-home full-back. He played on all the great full forwards, but that's all he ever did. He probably hardly got outside of the 50-metre arc. It wasn't like it is today where they all flood down past the centre of the ground. He was pretty much just stationed there. But very late in his career, he did get switched to full forward a few times, so he did manage to snag one.
Yeah, and there's only about a dozen players who have gone over 100 games without kicking one, and they are all from bygone eras of the league. It is much more uncommon these days. Although I would be remiss to not mention my boy Jake Kolodashny of Geelong. He is one of those players. He's at 124 games now without a goal, which is the leading current player. In a few games, he'll overtake Billy Payne, and then a couple of games after that, Hugh McLaughlin from the 50s. And he's going to slowly progress up this ladder. He's currently in 15th place all time. What is he now? He's 60 short of the record. So this time in 3 years, he could have it. He does the right thing. He's had 10 behinds. So he hasn't lacked opportunity. He's kicked 0 goals 10 through 124 games.
That's plenty of chances.
Yeah, I think that it might be a savvy investment to perhaps place a small wager on him being an anytime goal scorer in game 200 for Geelong. I think they might have to sneak him up to get one if he hasn't got one by then.
Well, if they keep playing Fremantle, he's probably bound to get one if he goes forward.
Yeah, some sort of 100-point drubbing, sort of junk time, fourth quarter operation to sneak him forward. I do watch every Cats game, and that sort of describes the circumstances around all of his 10 behinds. They come often in big wins. So I do think they try to get him one, but he just misses. So yeah, in fact, just briefly looking at it, I believe all of his behinds do come in wins. That is perhaps a unique thing. Perhaps I'll look into that through the week to see where that sits in the record books. Maybe as the player with the most games where every time he kicks a behind, he wins. We'll have to find that out.
Well, they better sneak him forward early to secure the win.
Yeah, that's very, very circular kind of David King logic that I like.
I know Tom Cleary from Port, their captain's also had 109 games without a score at all, similar to Wilkie before he kicked that behind. So he may be one to watch out for. I don't think he even gets a sniff at having a shot.
Yeah, Tom Cleary playing fullback. I think you mixed him up with Tom Jonas as the captain who hasn't scored a goal.
That's right.
But I think Jonas might have a goal. Tom Cleary definitely on our record book says not having a goal or a point. Truly amazing.
Yeah, I know Barras from West Coast, who's unfortunately injured at the moment, but he's played 97 games. I think he's kicked one behind, if my memory serves me correctly. And yes, it does, because I'm just having a look at it now. So he's come out for 100 games with just a behind. I also noticed over the weekend, Liam, we had Adelaide and West Coast. Speaking of West Coast, they both scored the same number of goals as behinds. Adelaide 8-8 to West Coast 14-14. We had a few messages about this come through.
Yes, indeed. Symmetrical score lines always seem to fascinate both myself, the admin group, and all of our followers. And I went digging, and we found out the most recent time that this has happened is in 2017, round 15, Sydney versus GWS, 9-9-63 to 15-15, 105. So it's been about 4 years since we've seen this as a final score at the end of the game.
Yeah, so 86 times we've had 120 something years of AFL, so it doesn't even happen once a year.
No, it doesn't. And I just had a look to see what the highest would be. So we have Geelong versus Fitzroy, 1992, round 6, 25-25 to 11-11.
Wow.
Truly amazing. So that totals 252.
Yeah, you don't see 20-odd behinds kicked very often. So, and when you do, it's normally a lot less goals.
A lot less goals. You're normally thinking, okay, maybe 10 goals, 25 behinds. That might be a bit more realistic, but Geelong doing the impossible. I believe they're 5 goals ahead, 5 goals ahead and in front of the next highest. I think the next highest is 21-21.
Well, speaking of stats that surprisingly happened more than people expect, we had Denver Granger Barras, part of the Hawks team that surprisingly drew with Melbourne. I wasn't watching this game, but I saw a score and Melbourne were comfortably ahead, and then I saw a message come up on my phone that it was a draw, and I was like, wow, what happened there? But he's now had 1 win, 1 draw, and 1 loss for his career, young Denver. And we had quite a few inboxes on this. People think it might have been a first, but it's actually happened 143 times. We did a post last time it happened with Darcy Cameron. So, yeah, that is actually quite common. I suppose when there's a drawn game, you may have 1 or 2 players from either team having only a couple of games, and then if it so happens that they have a win and loss around those, then it obviously strikes.
Yeah, teams that are average enough to draw a game are likely to sort of win and lose one near it, right? Like if you debut for an amazing team or a terrible team, you'll go win, 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 loss, loss, loss. But if your team's drawing games, it's almost likely that you'll be near a win and near a loss pretty shortly after the draw.
Yeah, although Daniel Lloyd for GWS, who being with GWS, you'd think he would have had some losses to start his career, but I think he actually had about 4 or 5 wins and then back-to-back draws. So he actually had 2 draws before he had his first loss, which is a bit amazing.
By the way, Jake Kolodashny is the holder of that record of most, I'm not even sure how to describe it,
most behinds?
100% win rate in games where they kick behinds, sorted by most games with a behind. Alan DeWald has done it 8 times in second place, and Alan Barr 7 times. These are not names that are too familiar to me. Noah Bolter has done it 6 as the sort of most famous current player.
I remember.
So Richmond need to get. Is Noah Bolter play for Richmond? Yeah. I'm pretty sure he does.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. I don't watch many games that aren't Geelong, but I think if they can just get Noah Bolter forward for a behind, that might turn their season around.
Well, they actually need to try and get him on the park because he's one of about a dozen players that got injured. So that's probably not going to happen, unfortunately, for Richmond.
He's their key to success, so that probably explains why they're down.
Well, I'm surprised with that Kolodashny stat. A few weeks ago, we had Reece Matheson saying he was the barometer for Brisbane. Maybe Colo's behind kicking is the barometer for Geelong, undefeated when he kicks one.
Yeah, it could be because he only takes shots at goal when we're 80 points up, but we won't let that get in the way of a good story.
Now back to these draws. I don't know if anyone's had a look at this, but having 2 wins, 2 draws, and 2 losses, which is something maybe Denver Granger Barras can have a crack at, that has to be significantly tougher. So 143 players had 1, 1, and 1. We'll give one of you guys. I don't know if you want to have a crack at it, Bill or Liam.
Yeah, I'll have a crack now. So we need in their first 6 games.
Yep.
Precisely 2, 2, 2.
Yeah, I'm sure there's got to only be maybe a handful of people that have done that.
There aren't many players that have played in 2 draws. Obviously, many have done it, but it is rare. So to do it in the first 6 games could be tough. But give me a few minutes, I'll pull it up.
Well, while you're talking about that, I might mention Sean Burgoyne and the Hawks. The Hawks must have a good little useless statistician out there, because I saw them put up a post about Sean Burgoyne playing his 403rd game. And if the Hawks manage another draw, so back-to-back draws, he will equal Kevin Bartlett's identical career record of 260 wins, 4 draws, and 139 losses. So that would be amazing. I actually had a bit of a look at clubs who had registered back-to-back draws, and there hasn't been too many. I know Essendon have done it, and GWS most recently did it. But tough to get back-to-back draws. I think you get about 50 to 1 for a draw in the normal betting. So 50 to 1 by 50 to 1 is probably 2,500 to 1, if my maths are correct.
Yeah, but Sean Bulgren has played 2,500 games, so
true. If anyone can do it, he can.
Speaking of Hawthorn and hiring useless statisticians, I feel obliged to give a shout out to my high school alum, Darren O'Shaughnessy, who was the architect of the Hawthorn three-peat, their head of data science, I believe, during that period. So shout out to old Haileybury Darren O'Shaughnessy. Anything but useless.
Okay, well, I've never heard of him, so
he doesn't want to connect with me on LinkedIn for some reason, but I'll keep sending requests. Yeah,
maybe now.
The gushing fan mail that I send has maybe spooked him. I'm not sure.
Is Clarko still got him on his books there, or has he been long gone?
I'll look. He'll get another. Bill has viewed your profile on LinkedIn message right now. I'll just have a quick look. I think he might have moved on from St Kilda. He's at St Kilda now. Yeah, sorry, moved on from Hawthorn to St Kilda. Oh, wow. He's now the senior analyst at the Saints. And look who's climbing up the ladder, the Saints, and who's going down, the Hawks. So this guy, he was the chief architect and chief statistician at Champion Data for 10 years. Moved to Hawthorn. They won 3 flags. Now he's at St Kilda and they're moving up the ladder. So as far as useless AFL statisticians go, I suspect this guy's one of the rare, very useful ones.
Oh, well. I actually had a little crack at trying to get a job at Champion Data once.
Where are we going now? With Della as he takes us on a tangent.
I failed in one key area, and that was they got me to identify players in a Gold Coast GWS game. And I hadn't really watched.
Wow, that's a tough one.
I hadn't really watched too many Gold Coast and GWS games before, so and that was 5 or 6 years ago. So I really let myself down there, unfortunately.
Is that part of the recruiting process? Like you get past the first interview and blah blah blah, and then they're like, "Oh, we need to do an aptitude analysis. Here's some Gold Coast players. Can you name them?"
No, so I did get through a couple of rounds of testing, and then they basically showed you videos, and you had to sort of say who the players were in the centre square at the bounce, and then sort of like Nat Nui tap down to Shuey, handball to Yo, kick into forward 50, like that.
You have to be quick. You have to be quick on it.
Yeah, so when it came to Gold Coast, you could say the player or the number. Unfortunately, they're not always showing their number either. So I was like, Gold Coast player to Gold Coast player, handball, tap.
Campbell to Ablett,
missed tackle.
To Gold Coast player.
Yeah, and then Ablett was coming in every second time, but nobody else. And then it was Callum Ward and a couple other GWS players. Toby Green takes mark. That was about it. So, yeah, I failed badly there.
Yeah, player retention. Sorry, I can't remember what word they use for it, but player literacy or something. Got to imagine is very tough. There's every year there's probably about 700 unique players that play.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I can probably name 50 of them. So
I thought it was a bit unfair because they just popped a game up, whereas the real commentators get the pre-game and all that to actually learn the players in the game they're calling. So I thought it was a bit unfair.
Yeah, if you got Fremantle versus West Coast, I'm sure you would have a much higher success rate. You could probably get 90% of the players.
Yeah, exactly.
Nine players have played at 2 wins, 2 draws, and 2 losses through their first 6 games.
Here we go. Who was the last one?
Currently, I'm getting their names up right now. It looks to me, for those listening at home, each player is given a player ID number every time they debut. And so if all the player numbers are in sort of a sequential order, it suggests that they were all playing at about the same time.
Oh, wow.
So we've got Bob Syme of Essendon is the most recent.
Okay.
That, and we're talking a while ago. Exactly when he debuted is a bit beyond me right now, but I haven't really prepared for this answer very well. But and all the other players appear to have sort of clustered together, which I suggest mean they played in the same 6 games.
I know.
Henry Coy, John Lord, Todd Thomas, all of Melbourne players.
I'm pretty sure I know why this happened, because Essendon had a run of draws in about the 50s or the 60s. They literally had like 5 draws within 2 or 3 seasons. So,
well, I think Bob was probably playing in them, and then the other 9 players is a cluster of debutants at Carlton and Melbourne. Sort of, we're talking early 20th century. Bob Symes, he debuted in
1944.
1944. He went loss, win, draw. Loss, win, draw.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. We might have to get a post up on the Facebook page about these players.
Was he the most recent, you said?
He's the most recent.
Wow.
So it hasn't happened since World War II.
Okay, so Granger Barras
he's live.
He's live. He's got a 75-year-old stat to chase down. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and that did catch our eye as well about the Western Bulldogs are chasing down a stat this week that's over 100 years old, the record.
Oh, yes.
Which is the most games, the longest sequence where their opponent scores the exact same score. So for 3 weeks in a row, the Western Bulldogs have kept their opponents to, I think, is it precisely 11-13 79?
Yes,
is that what they've kept them to? So only one other team has done this, as in the exact same score by their opponent 3 weeks in a row, was Geelong, over 100 years ago. So if the Western Bulldogs this week, playing, I believe, Adelaide, if they score 11... that game's moved, hasn't it?
They're playing Melbourne.
They're facing Melbourne now.
Yeah.
Well, that might help the record, because I'm not sure Adelaide could get up to 79 points. So this could potentially help the record. So we're all going to be rooting for Melbourne to score 11 goals, 13. Don't care what the Bulldogs score. It's not relevant for this record.
Oh.
So go Melbourne.
Yeah,
11-13 is a very common score.
Oh, well.
I'm hoping for zero goals, 79 points. That'd be one way to bring it up.
Well, it'd be interesting to see if the record's longer for just the score and not in the exact same goals and behinds.
I assume it would be, but it might be worth checking that.
I've got another record that's a few more weeks away. We had some astute, perhaps a Sydney supporter, notice that the Sydney Swans have been in 6th position on the ladder for the last 11 rounds. They're actually equal on points with Brisbane at the moment, but got a far less percentage. But Sydney actually hold the record for most rounds in 6th position. It's a very obscure position to be in, because we've never had exactly 6 teams in competition. So it's not like they were rooted to the bottom of the ladder for a while. They actually went 14 rounds from round 6, 1927 to round 1, 1928. So they started around 1928 in 6. So that was a total of 14 rounds. So they're in search of a 94-year-old record, 93-year-old record there, their own record, which they could break. Only Richmond and St Kilda have ever spent more than 10 weeks in a row in 6th spot. And it's of all the ladder positions, except for 13th, which has only had one team spend 10 weeks in 13th, and that was Melbourne. Every other ladder positions has had more than three teams spend 10 weeks or more in a position. That was
that is a very detailed,
my mini deep dive into ladder positions.
Extraordinary records.
Right. Is there anything else we saw over the weekend that caught anyone's eye?
Now, if you're half curious, I think I'm about to get that record of irregardless of the exact composition of goals and behinds, I'm about to get the record for most common longest sequence of opposition scores being the same.
I do have something from the weekend. Marcus Bontempelli had 15 clangers, which I thought was remarkable because a lot of players wouldn't even get near the ball 15 times, let alone be able to have a clanger 15 times. Most of them don't get 15 touches.
So the longest sequence, if you forget goals and behinds and just consider the total score, is also 3. So, yeah, if Melbourne kick 11 goals 13, that'd be a record. But if they kick any other 79, it would also be the record.
Oh, well.
So there's a lot more opportunities now for that record to fall.
Okay, and just confirming, Bontempelli's 15 clangers is definitely a record.
Yeah, the previous record was 13, held by a handful of players. I don't remember them all, but Nat Fyfe is one of them.
Yeah, so it's Heath Shaw, Adam McPhee, and Nat Fyfe have 13 clangers.
So I'm pretty happy about that.
When you sort of glance through the records of clangers, you do see a few Brownlow medalists. I know that Dangerfield had 12 in a game. Fife's obviously had the 13. Bontempelli may win a Brownlow. So
Powell Pepper also had 13 as well.
I'm not sure his Brownlow caliber sort of destroys my point, but it's
Adam McPhee Brownlow caliber.
Yep, absolutely. He'll certainly eventually win one in my sort of
probably
multiverse.
Half of McPhee's probably resulted in goals to the opposition.
Yeah, but my point is that these are players that are winning a lot of contested ball, perhaps giving away a few free kicks that they shouldn't have. A free kick against counts as a clanger.
Well, Bontempelli had 5 frees for and 5 frees against.
Yeah, so that's 5 of his clangers are frees against. In Dangerfield's game where he had 12, 6 of them were frees against. So these are hard at the ball, under the contest players who are always being tackled when disposing the ball. So it's almost a badge of honour, I think.
Actually,
I think it's an indication he's doing the right thing.
Sorry to keep coming back to Bontempelli, but he also had 5 bounces. So 5 frees for, 5 frees against, and 5 bounces. That's I don't think I've ever seen that symmetry across those 3 stats that high. I wonder if anyone's ever had.
Geez, I've been click-clacking away at the moment. But
more bounces.
I'm going to have to check that one as well. The bounces will destroy that being common.
Even the same bounces as frees against would be extraordinary. If it's higher than 5, I'd be surprised anyone's done that. But yeah, that's a good one. It's amazing when we do these podcasts what we pick up.
So free kicks for, free kicks against, and bounces. We're looking for games that where they're all equal.
Maybe this might go up on the page tomorrow. I did also notice we posted this one about Connor West playing for West Coast. We had a few messages come through when he was named. Obviously, West playing for West Coast. He had 19 disposals, but that was short of Richo for Richmond, who had 20. Of course, they're both father-sons, although Connor West was a mid-season draft pick, so not technically a father-son draft pick. And then Riley West with 14 disposals, the son of Scott West at the Bulldogs. So as far as I'm aware, they're the only 3 players whose names match their clubs, and they're also father-sons, which is pretty unique. And we also had Sydney defeating West Coast Western Bulldogs and Greater Western Sydney. So the West treble, first club to do that. So well done to Sydney. They're playing great football, Sydney. Surprised a lot of people, and a lot of people are expecting them to drop away because of their young players, but they're holding their form, which is great. The thing about the Sydney treble there against the West teams is that only Fremantle and St Kilda have had the chance to achieve that before. Fremantle have had 2 chances, but no surprise that they didn't defeat all those 3 teams. So Sydney hold that.
got a record for you, Della. 3,000 occurrences of free kicks for, free kicks against, and bounces matching. So it's been done 3,000 times.
Are they all zero?
It's not very. No, sorry, I excluded zeros. So the vast majority of these are 111.
Yep.
Daniel Kerr of West Coast got 444. He was, I suppose, previously the record holder.
Oh, wow.
Now Bontempelli's 555.
Yeah, go Bont.
Is of these 3,000 matches, most of which are 111.
Okay.
Is unique in the sense that it's the highest matching game. So it overtakes Daniel Kerr. There's 4 players who have done it 3-3-3. That's Jess Sinclair, Dangerfield, Michael Walters, and Dustin Martin.
Dusty.
So some good company in there. And then a whole bunch of players have obviously done it twice, and then thousands once. So
okay. I might get you to message me through those, how many have done it twice and how many have done it once, and those other names. So we'll post that up tomorrow for sure. That's a good one. Good work there, Bill, for sure. All right, I think we've gone through pretty much everything from the weekend. So I might go into the Mo votes, and it was a bit of a different look for the Mo votes this week. And again, it's getting harder and harder as the weeks go by. But I got a few new players into the votes. I didn't have any of our leaders in there, so sort of like the Brownlow when they're getting near the end of it, and all of a sudden there's like 3 people in with a chance and none of them get votes for a round. This is sort of what happened with the Brownlow.
Who scored votes this week in the Brownlow medal?
5 votes went to George Hewitt from the Swans. The Swans midfield took a late COVID hit when Mills was out. So Hewitt was the man who stepped up. He racked up 30 disposals, 15 contested possessions, both season best for him. He had 7 clearances and 6 tackles. It was a great game with Josh Kennedy and Luke Parker. They took the Giants apart after the very slow start they had. 4 votes. One of your men, Bill, in Zach Tui.
Yes.
Great game by him. I was live at that one. Unfortunately, saw him tearing up Fremantle across half-back in the wing. He's had a bit of a purple patch because he got 5 votes last week. So 2 good games by him.
Started to sneak forward and kick goals the last few weeks.
Yeah, he only kicked 2 behinds.
He's having a good year. He was omitted from the team at the start of the year, and he's worked his way back in, and now he's potentially threatening the Mo.
Yeah, well, I think he had a couple of niggles at the start of the year, but he had 30 disposals and 594 metres gained against Freo. He's actually on 18, so he's only 3 votes off the leaderboard. The 3, I gave that to Bailey Smith. He's another player making a late Brownlow charge. He had 33 disposals, 9 clearances. He stepped up in the absence of Libba, who the Bulldogs rested for that one. He also had 9 clearances and 7 inside 50, so a very good game. Now, he was up against the Gold Coast, and I've snuck 2 Gold Coast players in for the minor votes. Jeremy Sharp, he won the Rising Star, so I think this is probably only the second or third time we've had a Brownlow vote getter along with a Rising Star in the same week. But a good breakout game for young Sharp. He had 30 disposals, 10 marks, 83% on the cross half back. He kept Gold Coast in it all day. He also had 2 bounces, which is a career best bounces for him in his short career. I describe him as a bit of a Bailey Smith looks-wise meets Aaron Hall, lack of contested ball. We missed talking about Aaron Hall at the start there. He's 0 contested possessions and 26 kicks.
A seagull. Picking up the scraps.
Yeah, that's
and at Gold Coast, I
as
assume
good as
there's
you
just
get.
lots of scraps. So you can really find your niche there and pick up a lot of free wills.
Well, it'd be hard to seagull there because you need someone to actually get the ball first and then give it to you, which is two things Gold Coast traditionally haven't been good at. But yes, so he picked up his first ever Mo votes. Good game. He looks a real prospect, young sharp. 1 vote to Sam Collins. Breaks my heart seeing this guy play for Gold Coast, being an ex-Docker that we gave away for pretty much nothing. But it's great to see him playing so well, especially with a moustache, because he didn't start the year with the moustache. He's one of these players that have taken it on throughout the year. I could have given this 1 vote to heaps of players, but he did a good shutdown job on Aaron Norton. He had 8 marks, 2 contested, 6 intercepts, 14 disposals at 85%. So really good defenders game for him up against the normally high-scoring Bulldogs. Honourable mentions to Tom Stewart, Bailey Dale, Jake Lever, Jake Lloyd, Riley Bonner, probably his best game for the year. He's not far away. James Warple, Nick Holman, who interestingly, Nick Holman actually had an operation today on his stomach. He got hit by Bontempelli, and Bontempelli got off at the tribunal on that. They said it was no case to answer for, but he ended up having an operation. And also Brad Close. I was tempted to put Brad Close in the votes, but I just couldn't sneak him in. Anyway, the leaderboard is Libba on 27, Tom Stewart 26, Tex Walker 23, Jake Lever and Bailey Dale on 21. So there we go, boys.
Brilliant. The Sam Collins inclusion, he very late inclusion into the Brownlow votes, because I guess he kind of plays pretty much under the radar for Gold Coast, and his mustache isn't one. It isn't one of the strongest out there, I have to say.
Well, it is now. If you see a recent photo of him, it's quite good. It's nearly Jake Lever like. But he took a while to get it going. But if you need to have a look at Gold Coast this week, Liam. Check it out.
Okay, I'll give them a check. The good thing, well, I'm not sure if it's good or bad, but Gold Coast are always on free to air up in Brisbane. So
one of only 2 games probably.
If I want to watch footy without watching it on my phone on KO or something, it either has to be Gold Coast or Brisbane or a Friday night or Saturday night game. So
maybe you could get a job at Champion Data if you can recognise Gold Coast players. I hear that's...
Oh, I still couldn't. They all just glaze over. My eyes just, they're all the same.
I tell you what, North Melbourne are the new Gold Coast in that respect. They all look the same.
Oh, they're all bald, muscly, and
they got just short, nearly soldiers haircuts, just that short back and sides.
Private schoolboy haircut.
Yeah,
that means they've been recruiting from Metro Melbourne. The sort of shorter mullet haircut you're noticing is more of a regional Victorian recruitment strategy. The short back and sides suggests private school.
Mm-hmm. They got a stack of those guys.
And I believe the AFL media also doesn't know who North Melbourne players are. There was a post about a week ago. I think it was Walker and a North Melbourne player that I can't even remember that got mixed up in a marking contest. That's
right. That was one of the marks of the week. And they called him Cunnington. And then another media outlet called him someone else. But yeah.
Cunnington's fairly recognisable.
Yeah, unfortunately.
When you look straight down on him and you only see his kind of balding head, it kind of blurs in with the rest of the North Melbourne.
Well, Cunnington's turned his hair around. I think he's been to the same place Shane Warne went to, or Wayne Carey, because
he's getting hair plugs.
Yeah, he's made it come back.
I'll tell you, this is maybe not that funny, but I just went to AFL tables to look up the North Melbourne players of this year, and obviously, maybe not obviously, but a link is typically blue when you haven't visited that page, and it turns purple if you have visited that page. Yeah. Every team is purple, and North Melbourne is unvisited. So I've never been on the North Melbourne's AFL tables page before, but I've been to every other team.
Well, you've taken till round 18 to complete the set.
Yeah, there's not a lot of names I recognise here.
Actually, back on my ladder stat before, we're talking about ladder positions. I think North might be coming up for an 18 position record if they stay there for the rest of the season. Unfortunately for them, I think they might take it off Gold Coast or GWS. So they're playing good football though at the moment. They're actually really competitive in nearly all their games. They just had a shocking start to the season.
An interesting stat I picked up off Twitter. I was looking at top 8 predictions. Like what are the chances that a team is going to be in a top 8 position at the end of the season? And there's a couple of 0% chances. Like it's mathematically impossible. Those include your North Melbourne, Collingwood, and Hawthorn. But what I was really surprised to see is that Gold Coast are still a chance to make the top 8. 0.4% chance, according to the Twitter post I saw. So they're in with a shot, which is more than we can say for Collingwood.
So that suggests that if we were to simulate the rest of the season 250 times, you'd expect Gold Coast to sort of make the finals in once. Yeah, out of those 250. So, yeah, look, that's a chance. It's not zero.
That is a chance. Not zero, non-zero chance. Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been on to Squiggle.
Yeah.
It's a great football page. They have predictions like that.
Yeah, I believe it was. I'm pretty sure it was from Squiggle. Yeah.
You can sort of simulate 5,000 seasons using their auto tip feature. It's quite fun to keep doing it until you get the result that you want, so you can screenshot it and send it to your friends.
I also noticed normally late in a season, so sort of round 12, 13, 14 onwards, the top 8 often doesn't change much, and it certainly doesn't change week by week. But we've actually had the composition of the 8 change 4 times in the last 4 rounds and in different ways. So we've had Richmond in the 8, then we had Freo, or it might have been GWS in the 8, then we had Freo in the 8, and now we've got Essendon in the 8. And in theory, if 4 games go the right way, we could have St Kilda in the 8. So we could have 5 different compositions of the 8 in 5 different weeks. And without knowing for certain, I'm pretty sure that would have to be a first. With that different team filling that sort of 8th spot in the ladder, although some of them have been 6th or 7th. But that's extremely rare for that to happen. So
it sort of appears as if no one actually wants to finish 7th and 8th at the moment. It's almost almost a curse. West Coast is in. I'm not sure where is West Coast now.
Richmond didn't want it.
But West Coast have still 7th, right? Stayed in there. Yeah, they've stayed in there. But yeah, Richmond fell away. Fremantle, but they were shocking when they got in there. GWS got upset when they were in there. And Essendon, now it's their chance to see if they can hold their spot.
And going forward into the top 8 is Essendon. They've managed to sneak in there. So there's always that fantastic stat about Essendon playing finals.
Yes.
Maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year that Essendon can finally break that hoodoo.
We hope not. We don't. We want Sean Burgoyne to retire at the end of the year, and then there'll be no current AFL players that were ever playing when Essendon last won a final, because he was playing. He's the last sole survivor.
He's the last one. Yeah.
Yes, and Aaron Sandilands was the last one to play against Essendon in a final that Essendon won. And he retired a couple of years ago now.
I think Geelong might recruit Aaron Sandlands for next season. So we might have to wait a while for that to actually finish. He's currently in the age profile for Geelong.
Oh, yeah, he's right there.
He's only 38, That's not 40.
Well, they reckon David Mundy might play till 38. He had his 36th birthday today, and they're saying that he will sign on for another year.
Well, he certainly deserves it on form.
He's playing his 350th game. He might be the next to 400, even though I discounted him a couple of podcasts ago. But yeah, he's soldiering on.
All right, so I'll restart my intro to the deep dive.
Deep dive with Bill.
This week, I looked at times where an individual's score, so an individual goal, kickers and behinds, outscored their opposition's entire team. So we have goals and behind data from 1965, and before then, I did the best with what I could, only with the goals available. And it has happened a few times, but the most obvious observation was that in that sort of early gestation period of the league in the late 19th century and the early part of the century previous, it was much more common. So back then, it would happen 20 times a season, and now it only happens 3 or 4 times. And that's obviously because back then, as you two know full well, the scores were pretty strange. It's pretty easy to outscore your opponent when your opponent only scores 5. But these days, it's obviously a bit harder. So what became obvious here, I thought that we're going to see Tony Lockett, Jason Dunstall just top of the list. But they played during a very high scoring era, which means their opponents also scored high. And what became clear is that the art of doing this almost has more towards you need to be in a team with a good defense rather than just being a prolific goal scorer. Because a key part of it is a low opposition score. By way of example, Kevin Templeton once kicked 15 goals, 9.99 in a 100-point win against St Kilda, but St Kilda did score 106. So his 99 was not enough to beat St Kilda, despite the fact that he kicked, 15 goals. Whereas
he had kicked 17.
He had 17, yeah. But Chris Knight's, sorry to bring this up, Della, he did overcome Fremantle. He only kicked 2 goals, 3.15 to beat Fremantle 1.8.13. So, yeah, it is much more to do with suppressing your opposition score with a good team defense and then just bobbing up for a few goals. That's really the most common way to do it these days.
Yeah, 1 goal 8 doesn't help either, does it?
Yeah.
I actually remember that game. It was in Adelaide.
Yeah, so I looked at the times where teams had done it, so had the most players do it in one game, and I sort of ignored the first 10 or 20 years of the league because it was so crazy. That game had 4 players do it, and a 5th player, Scott Stevens, kicked 2 goals, 1.13 to tie. And so that 4 players individually beating one team is by far the modern record. That was a terrible game for Fremantle.
Yes, tell me about it.
Tom Norton, I'm not sure if you've heard of him. He played 1 game in 1908. He beat Melbourne 2 goals, 0.12 to 1 goals, 4.10, and never played again. So I thought that was kind of strange and bizarre. I'm not sure what else the coach wanted him to do than beat the opposition with his own boot, but he got the flick and never played again.
Yeah, that was harsh on old mate Orton.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I'll give you both a bit of a trivia question. Albert Thurgood outscored Collingwood in a grand final, kicking 3 goals to Collingwood's 2 goals, 4.16. That was one of 2 games. 2 grand finals where a player's done that. Can you name the other one?
Well, I reckon it might have been recent.
Yeah.
Because GWS only got 27.
It's either GWS or Geelong versus Port Adelaide.
All right, and you're gonna commit to a player from either Richmond or Geelong?
I reckon Dustin Martin might have kicked 4 goals. I don't know if he kicked 5.
And
it was Jack Rewalt.
Jack Rewalt.
Sorry, I've interrupted your guest then.
No.
Who are you going to say?
I was going to pick someone from Geelong that might have.
Maybe a Cam Mooney. I actually think Port Adelaide likely kicked the highest score than you remember in that grand final.
I was only 6. I was only 6. Wow. No, I was 10 at the time, and it's been scrubbed from my memory. So
yeah.
You're probably down the pub. That's why I remember it.
I remember it quite well, but Port Adelaide kicked 6 goals, 8.44. So a Geelong player would have had to have kicked 8 goals to beat them. A few junk timers there. So another sort of little example of how hard it is to do. Eddie Betts has kicked 650 goals and played 350 games. He's actually never done it.
Very well.
But my boy, Brian Myers, has done it. That probably speaks more to Geelong's defense than Brian Myers' ability to kick big bags.
Has Matthew Richardson ever done it?
I'll have to check him specifically. He's not in my notes.
The reason why I mentioned Matthew Richardson,
big goal scorer, but bad sort of team when he played for him, right?
Well, he also kicked 800 career goals, and he never won the Coleman Medal. So that's the most goals by anyone not to win the goal kicking award.
Matthew Richardson kicked 800 goals, and he beat the opposition exactly once. 7 goals, 547. Defeated the opposition, who scored 36 points. So he won by 11 points. So we did it just the once. Matthew Lloyd only did it once, and Matthew Pavlich did it twice in the Battle of the Matthews. For anyone who was curious about that.
There you go. Has there ever been a game where 2 players have beat the opposition? So maybe like Hawkins kicked 6, Ablett kicked 6 versus a team that only kicked 5, for example.
There certainly would have been in like 1897. There was a game that 7 players defeated the opposition because they all kicked 1 goal and the opposition team
like 1
kicked
point.
5.
Yeah.
That was probably St Kilda.
You sort of do need to ignore
those anomalies. Yeah,
those otherwise the records just will never be broken. Perhaps rightfully, but yeah, I mean, there's a few games that I can I'm just scrubbing through here where I've seen 2. Port Adelaide versus Gold Coast. The most recent example of 2 is Geelong versus North Melbourne. In 2019, Brian Myers, as I said, and Tom Hawkins. Before then, in 2018, 3 Richmond players defeated Brisbane: Dustin Martin, Jason Castagna, and Jacob Townsend. So it's not super uncommon to see multiple. But what you see is, like in that game, Brisbane Lions, they scored 2 goals, 5-17. In that Geelong game, North kicked 1 goal, 8-14. So it's really more attributable to the team than the individual.
Well, there would have been a few in that Freo game we talked about at the start because they kicked 1-8 and Saints kicked Adelaide kicked 20 goals, I think.
Yeah, Kurt Tippett kicked 5, Jason Porpazilia and Dangerfield, Chris Knights as well. And Scott Stevens broke evens with 2 goals, 1-13.
That was Jason Porplesia.
The porpoise.
Yes, he was actually on a home renovation show on TV. Fun fact.
Fuck, that's useless. Thanks.
I'll just rattle off a couple of quick ones. Gordon Coventry has done it 17 times. That's the most. He's in front of Peter McKenna and Dick Lee, who did it 12. John Coleman only did it 7 times, but he only played 98 games, so that was up there. But my boy Eddie James, he did it 7 times as well, but only played 46 career games.
Wow.
He's been dead 100 years. The biggest ever individual win is by Harold Robertson for Sydney. He kicked 14 goals against St Kilda that just scored 2 goals, 6-18.
That may have been that famous game where half of St Kilda's players left the field and didn't finish out the game.
Maybe it was all the defence. Hawkins and Franklin are the best of the current players with 4 each. All of Hawkins come from the most recent years, so perhaps Hawkins will pull clear as Franklin retires. I thought it was interesting that Tom Hawkins did it 4 times and Ablett Senior only did it 3 times.
What about Jason Dunstall and Tony Lockett?
Lockett I have him here. So I have a whole lot of tabs open. They weren't too far ahead of that sort of 4-5 range, if I can remember. here we go. Jason Dunstall, if I sort by that, he's done it 9 times, I believe.
One of those would have been
Dunstall 9. Yep.
His 17 goals he kicked against Richmond. That's one of the earliest games of VFL/AFL I can remember, because I reckon I was probably 16 or 17 at the time.
Yeah, Tony Lockett played 280 games, 1,360 goals, and he only beat the opposition 5 times.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Tony, he didn't play in many good teams. He started with St Kilda. And they didn't play too many finals, and went to Sydney, and it took a while before they got to play finals as well. So good goal kicker in okay teams, but not great teams.
Yeah, that's sort of it for my deep dive. If anyone listening has any further follow-up questions, just send us a message, and I'll let you know what the answer is. But yeah, my favourite stat is that Brian Myers is undoubtedly a better small forward than Eddie Betts by this metric.
Yes. One of my few highlights watching Freo was when Brian Myers tried to do his hook-footed kick on the very wet Optus Stadium grass and slipped over as he was doing it. That was one of my.
I'm not sure if either of you follow golf, but there's a bit of Bryson DeChambeau about Brian Myers. Very unique approach to the game. When it works, you attribute it to the unique approach, and when it doesn't work, you attribute it to the unique approach. When he misses a goal, it just looks spectacular, Brian Myers. You just think he should retire. But when he bobs up for 3 goals straight, you think, oh, geez, maybe everyone should kick that way.
Yeah, he's very elusive.
We need a stat on how high the ball gets kicked. Is like average shots, because I reckon he's about half the league average. I reckon if we had access to this data, he just sends it zipping along, daisy cutter almost like.
Yeah, he does. That's a good pickup by you there, Liam. Very good. Speaking of which, we might jump into your mailbag.
Now it's time for Liam's mailbag.
Yes, Liam's mailbag, fast becoming the most popular segment on this podcast. I've, walking around my house. My parents love it. So that's all I'm going off.
Well, they got it on repeat.
Yeah, exactly.
I was wondering who the 2 listeners were on Spotify. I didn't know.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Mum and Dad. This first question comes in from Alex Diedrich. The lowest standard deviation in winning AFL scores in a round. So a standard deviation is a measure of the variation of scores. So
real nerd stuff.
Look, this is like.
Are you sure you didn't send this question in yourself? This screams of a Liam asked Liam.
Maybe not. Well, when you've got a mathematics degree, a standard deviation is really just that's week 1, day 1. So
it's like a kick in stats, isn't it?
Exactly. Everyone gets them. So we're looking for the lowest standard deviation in a round. And this record goes to 1916 round 8, where the scores were 65-65 for a standard.
That's cheating.
For a standard deviation of 0.
That's the one year where only 4 teams played.
Only 4 teams played. Yeah. And both of the winning teams had 65, but that's a bit of a cop out. So I'm going to increase the amount of games we're looking for to 8. And that goes to 2003, round 8.
Oh, wow.
A standard deviation of 6. So if you think about...
Pretty recent.
Yeah. So we have 106, 107, 119, 112, 103, 107, 123, and 112. So that's the lowest standard deviation.
Every game over 100 points.
Every game and every winner over 100 points as well.
Oh, how we yearn for those days.
And we can also have a look at the inverse, so the highest standard deviation. And
this is going to be one of those thrashings.
So we go back to 1899, round 17. The scores were 41, 45, 28, and 162.
Yes.
Was that 162-1 Geelong versus
Yes.
St Kilda?
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah, what a
That's the
game.
one.
What a
The
game.
Actually, that might be the game where St Kilda packed it in.
Yeah, they were never seen again. They kicked 1 point in the first quarter and just absolutely disappeared.
And they reckon that was enough.
Geelong ended up with 23 goals, 24. And that's the highest standard deviation. But once again, if we just have a look at games with 8 or more wins in them, then the standard deviation comes down to a modest 47. So that's
still huge.
2007, round 6, winning scores of 125, 86, 131, 77, 111, 120, 222, and 76.
Oh, wow.
So
was that was one of Geelong's big wins again, I think, potentially.
Let me have a look.
It wouldn't have been far off. They used to do that a lot. They used to kick 30 goals a game nearly regularly.
Yeah, so the 222 game was Geelong versus Richmond. Geelong 222 to Richmond's 65.
Was that round 6, 2007?
That's the one.
At Etihad Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I was there with a couple of Richmond fans, and they were sort of informing me on the way in that Richmond was certainties.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
bad
call there.
Richmond were on the bottom of the ladder going into the game.
Shout out to Sticks and Lockie if they're listening.
Yeah, Richmond on the bottom of the ladder and Geelong up at 5th, I believe.
Yeah, I think we'd come off a shaky loss, and that was the sort of game where apparently Scarlett sort of dressed down Ablett, and there was a big sort of internal talk at the club that sort of resulted in a huge win and a streak of success afterwards. That's quite a famous game for Geelong fans.
Yeah, Geelong in the previous game lost to the Kangaroos by 16 points.
I was having a look at that game. They kicked 10 goals in the first quarter and another 10 in the second, led by 107 points at half time.
Yeah.
Fair to say they were revved up for that one.
They were really switched on. How long did those friends of yours last in that game, do you reckon?
I've been hearing from them a fair bit recently, as Richmond has sort of overcome Geelong in some finals. So, yeah, no, we're still close, and the tides have turned a bit, sadly.
Indeed.
Gary Ablett Jr. got the 3 Brownlow votes in that one. He had 32 disposals and 3 goals.
It's pretty modest for him, really, although that might have been one of his first sort of great games.
Yeah, he was only 22 years old, but he'd already played 106 games.
Yeah, more as a small forward kind of roundabout, maybe good player, and that was the year that he sort of went berserk.
His brother Nathan played in that game too and kicked 4.
He kicked a bag, yeah. He was going to be the best player ever, as far as I could tell, but that didn't quite.
Tom Hawkins also kicked 4.
Everybody kicked 4 in that game, I reckon.
No, just Andrew Mackie also kicked 4 and Ling kicked 3, which Ling was also a small forward back then. Shows how good a team they had.
Yep. On to the next one. We have a question in from Dylan Nossick. And this one's a pretty good one. I reckon you guys will love this. Hi, useless AFL stats. Here's an interesting stat I picked up. In round 5 of this season, Melbourne defeated Hawthorn 104 to 54. And then in round 18, they drew 79-79. It just so happens that 79 is the average of 104 and 54. Has something like this ever occurred before? 2 teams within the same season.
Oh.
And I did have...
I'm going to say yes.
It has happened before? Well,
that's my guess.
I'm going with no.
There's a bit of a technicality here. On its face value, a team going from teams playing each other and then going into a draw at the exact same average has never happened before. This is the
reverse. The reverse has happened.
No, a reverse hasn't happened either. This is the first time a draw has been the average of a previous game or a game later in the season. So this is a first. But I did have a look at some more at some recent games that were kind of similar. So Brisbane Lions versus Richmond in 2020. They averaged 61.5 in both of the games they played against each other. So,
Brisbane and who?
Brisbane and Richmond.
Oh, wow.
So in 2020, Brisbane Lions and Richmond averaged 61.5 in both of their games each. And this type of stat has only happened 66 times in the history of the AFL.
Well,
yeah, there you go.
Interesting.
Might need a whiteboard for you to explain that one to me again.
Yeah, exactly. But thanks to Dylan for sending in that question. That's a really good pickup. So we might have to turn that into a post.
That is a great call by Dylan.
Yes, that could be one we chuck up on Facebook as well.
My favourite statistics are statistics about statistics. So when you start talking about averages of scores matching, that's when it gets real into our territory.
Gets real good. This next stat comes in from our messages, and they noticed that certain players had the same amount of meters gained, but had wildly different disposal counts. And I decided to look through the records of meters gained to find out the biggest difference between players that had the same meters gained, but different disposals. And I've come up with one clear and outright leader. 2019, round 11, playing for North Melbourne, Ben Cunnington and Nick Larkey had the same meters gained, but with a disposal difference of 25.
Oh, wow.
So Ben Cunnington had 31 disposals, Nick Larkey with 6, for a total of 134 meters gained each.
I love that.
Yeah, Ben Cunnington does a lot of little handballs and also a lot of short kicks.
And I guess more unsurprisingly, in second place, 2017, round 13, is also North Melbourne, 144 meters gained. Ben Cunnington, 32 disposals. Kane Turner, 9 disposals for a difference of 23. So Ben Cunnington's got a monopoly on this stat.
Well, Kane Turner plays mostly in defence, so maybe he was just doing kickouts or something.
He's really getting bang for his buck. And there's also been a couple of instances where 3 players have had the exact same meters gained stat. And the largest of those goes to Hawthorn, 2019, round 18. 441 meters gained to all these players. So Liam Shields, Ricky Henderson, and Isaac Smith.
All midfielders.
All midfielders, all with the same meters gained. Liam Shields with 29, Henderson with 22, and Isaac Smith with 21 disposals, respectively.
Yeah, Isaac Smith's not surprising he had the least.
Mm-hmm. And
he's got that penetrating left foot.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And because we always love this, we can also have a look at the inverse of the stat. So the most amount of meters lost, I guess you could say. And in 2015, round 11, Gold Coast, which I guess would probably be the top of your guesses. 3 players had -2 meters gained. Danny Stanley, Charlie Dixon, and Jack Leslie is 1 disposal, 5 disposals, and 7 disposals, respectively.
Well, Charlie Dixon would have been playing in the forward line.
Exactly. He had 5 disposals for -2.
It's so odd to think that he played for the Gold Coast. I know that he played like 70 or 80 games there, but
yeah,
that seems so foreign to me now.
But how does a full forward go from having 5 disposals for -2 meters gained?
Maybe he played defence a bit for that one.
Maybe he must have picked he's led up the field, he's marked the ball in the centre circle, and he's just kicked it sideways.
Geez, he looks bizarre. He's got the red uniform on, no beard, a sort of moppy sort of haircut.
Yep.
No tattoos. He looks unusual. He looks a bit like Brett Kirk.
A bigger version. My all-time favourite one for meters lost is a game where Dom Sheed was playing pretty much in the centre for the West Coast and had, I think it was 16 disposals for -79 meters gained. It's actually hard to get sort of more than 30 or 40 negative meters gained, but on watching his highlights of his stats, he had a lot of long distance handballs that went backwards. One of them went about 20 meters backwards, and that's how he clocked up the minus 79 from 16 disposals. In fact, only 3 of them actually went forward, and there were 13 that went either 0 or negative.
Yeah,
which was amazing.
I've also got the all-time record for most negative meters gained in a single game. 2017 round 18 for St Kilda. Nathan Brown, negative 92 meters gained.
Oh wow!
Off 7 disposals.
Negative 92. He must have really gone backwards.
Yeah, must have.
But that's probably his average disposals. Nathan Brown. He never really got it a lot.
No, he didn't. Not to be confused with the other Nathan Brown
and the other Nathan Brown.
And the other one, yeah.
Back in our schoolboy footy, I did the coin toss for a game, and as I got back to the sort of group to tell them which way we were going, I had unfortunately forgotten. I figured I was a 50% chance of getting it right.
Yeah.
I got it wrong, and our team lined up backwards. I believe we lost the first centre clearance, and they started heading towards what we thought was our goal. But if we won that clearance, someone could have got some sort of 80, 90 metre negative single disposal, sort of streaming in the wrong direction and a big inside 50. So
that has happened in AFL a few times.
I remember Motlop is one of the players to kick a goal at the wrong end of the field. I do remember him.
I think it was Sam Menengola kicked one, and the umpire thought it was a goal, but he actually deliberately socketed it out of midair backwards.
And they score reviewed it, trying to check if it was touched, but it was a rush behind, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That was recent, but we've seen them take it out of the centre and go the wrong way and kick 40, 50 metres. But
I'm glad. I now consider myself AFL standard.
Yeah, the midfielders are generally the ones that do it, and they get plenty of time to recover it. So good for them.
There's also been a handful. There have been 5 instances of players to have over a kilometre in metres gained.
Oh, yes. I know one of them.
Do you want to hit me with it?
Chad Wingard
yes,
did it.
He has an exact 1,000 metres gained in one of his games for Port Adelaide back in 2017. 1,000 metres gained for 39 disposals.
That was an unbelievable game. I remember watching it.
He is 5th. So up above him, we have Patrick Dangerfield, 1,025. Pierce Hanley, 1,065. Heath Shaw, 1,125. And Nick Malcheski up top with 1.131 kilometres gained.
Wow.
So no one's ever done the mile.
That would be truly amazing to do that.
Another 300 metres off the record. It could be hard, but it could be done. Could be done.
Well, I reckon that Heath Shaw one, he probably had a dozen bounces.
So Heath Shaw had 38 disposals. Pierce Hanley had 45 and Dangerfield with 48 and Wingard with 39. But Nick Malcheski up the top, 28 disposals. A full 10 below the next highest, over a kilometre.
I think we should check a couple of these games out. When was Heath Shaw's one?
So Heath Shaw was 2016 round 9 for DWS. Okay. Nick Malcheski's 1.1 kilometre for 28 disposals was 2013 round 3.
I'm just having a look at that round 9 game of Heath Shaw's. He had 9 bounces. So, 26 uncontested possessions.
Yeah, but Nick Malcheski to go 1.1 Ks with only 28 disposals. He must...
What round was that?
2013 round 3.
2013 round 3.
17 uncontested possessions. He's had 11 rebound 50s and 7 inside 50s. So that's quite a game stretching across the arcs.
How many bounces?
Only 3 bounces.
Wow.
That's quite the game. It's quite unusual.
It's had some really long kicks.
I do wonder about the precision of these measurements. You said there's only 5 players that have ever done it.
Over 1,000.
Yeah, and you're looking at Paul Seedsman with his 996 metre game, thinking, Can we
Yeah.
can we remeasure that one? There might have been.
Someone
you
get
know,
the tape measure out.
If 4 of my 27 disposals went 1 extra meter, I'm in the club. I'd be asking Champion Data for a recall there. Might have to reach out to Paul Seedsman. I'll see if he's on LinkedIn.
Excellent.
And
You got any more for us, Liam?
And that finishes it up for our mailbag this week.
Okay. Thanks, Liam, and thanks to everyone who's sending in the messages. We do try and get to them all. Sometimes we miss the odd one or two, and sometimes I respond a few days later, and people say, "Oh, I can't remember sending that. I must have been drunk on a Friday night." But it's all good. And thanks to about those dozen or so Sam Walsh dick pics that got sent through. My missus gave me a funny look when I was scrolling through those. She was wondering what I was looking at. But I
love Sam
all
Walsh.
AFL related.
I just saw that Sam Walsh is the number 1 draft pick who has played the most consecutive games from debut.
Yes.
He's had 35 coaches' votes in the last 4 weeks, and geez, this isn't a useless stat, but he just looks unbelievable.
Yes, he does. It breaks my heart because I don't have him in my AFL fantasy team, and it's way too late to bring him in now.
He's got one of those sort of short mullets I was talking about. He was drafted from the regional Victoria. This theory, I think, holds true.
Well, he fit in at North Melbourne, but I don't think they'll get him now.
No.
That's for sure.
No, he's coming to Geelong. Lock it in. 2028.
All right, we'll wrap it up there, guys. Appreciate all your useless AFL stats. And we'll catch everyone again next week.
Thanks, Della.
Cheers, boys.
Thanks, Della.